Welcome to Valemount Votes. This is VCTV's one-on-one series of interviews with the candidates for mayor, for council, for regional district area H representative, and for school district 57 Robson Valley representative. And we're here today with Dannielle Alan. Dannielle is running for the position of regional district area H representative. Welcome, Dannielle.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Great.
And I appreciate the opportunity.
Great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Actually, you know something? It's wonderful what VCTV does for the community of Valemount and beyond.
Thank you for saying. Yeah,
it's neat.
We try to get out there as much as possible. We had a great time this summer at the Ancient Forest opening. That was great.
Yeah. And did you get a chance to see Harold and Bob and Monica dressed up with, Gandalf and the elf and the fairies?
Yes, I did. Yeah, absolutely. That was a blast. As a matter of fact, I talked to Sheila Foster and said, "Why don't you do this all the time?" She said, "If I could, I would."
It is, and we need more of those sorts of community events. It brings people together, it gets people talking to each other, and it gets people interacting with as people, not as things or as ideologues. It works.
And it's fun too. Let's not forget that, right?
And it's fun. Yeah, where is the fun anymore? We get so busy with things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody has time for fun.
Nobody has time for fun. Too serious. Got to get it done.
So before we get started with some questions that we have for you, I'd like you maybe just to tell people a little bit about yourself. So
sure.
Where you live, who you are, family, whatever you want to say. Just kind of tell us who you are.
I'm Dannielle Alan. I moved to the Robson Canoe Valley in 2005 with my then, I think, 8 and 9-year-old children. And I did so largely to raise my kids in the Robson Canoe Valley. Oddly enough, I had checked out the place. I'd done a little bit of a search, actually. I was born and raised basically on Vancouver Island and grew up there and had the kids there. Eventually, everything worked there. It was getting big. I was a single working mom. The kids were latchkey kids, in daycare and left home. And I thought, I can't raise them like this. I need a place where they can grow up and I don't have to teach them to be afraid.
Right.
Afraid to talk to strangers, afraid to walk down the street, afraid to go to the park without mom being there, right? So I actually did a tour of British Columbia. I went and checked out all of these little places. I was looking for a small town, an agricultural community, a community that had a strong volunteer base, but not necessarily a lot of money, not just a work town, right? A place that was a community. So it came down to, oddly enough, between Nakusp and McBride.
Okay.
I know, and people love Nakusp as well. So and Valemount, it was.
Were we a close third?
Yeah, you were close. Dunster was actually really close, and Valemount was as well. And it was the fact that I got a job in McBride first that helped. So I was hired to manage the Whistle Stop Gallery. And I think I was hired because I wasn't an artist. Not even a little bit of an artist. I am not allowed to have sharp things or sticky things. I once glued myself to my car.
Okay.
I know, right? I'm admitting this for all you people.
There you go.
It's all good. But what I do like is sales and marketing and promotion. So that's what I do.
Okay, great. Little snapshot of you then, that's great.
I know.
So what we're doing with all the candidates, we're giving them an opportunity to make an opening set of remarks. So you have up to 3 minutes. You can use it all or use whatever you want.
I'm just going to continue on in this vein, right? Because, nothing like politicians love to talk. It's just what we love to do.
But this is a chance for, I've got specific questions, but this is a chance for you if you have a prepared platform and you want to get out there and you want to make sure that you hit those points and not just rely on me to hit them. This is a chance for you to do that. And we want to make sure you get that chance. So.
Absolutely. And I think my work with the various organizations in the Robson and Canoe Valley, all the way from Dome Creek down into Valemount, and less so in Albreda because it doesn't have a community center, but the people from Albreda, they interact and work largely in the Valemount area. People like Terry Powers and the people out there.
Right.
Except for the mayor of Albreda. There used to be a mayor of Albreda.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. The honorary mayor of Albreda.
Yeah. Right.
I work with community groups, and my primary purpose is community building. I really strongly believe that if we want to attract people here, if we want to attract in business and investment here, we have to have the kind of communities that people want to live in. Vibrant, diverse, with the recreational opportunities and the educational opportunities for their kids, the opportunities to bring their parents here and make sure that they're going to age in place, these things that build community.
That's
I've lived in...
exactly what you did, right? You looked around for a community that had those things, right?
Yes, so I want to continue on with that. And I am blown away by the passion that people have for their community. You know, in the Valemount, in McBride, in Dome Creek, Tijon, and Dunster, they are active, engaged, they're doing things, they're building museums and trails and playgrounds and working with kids and just being community members. And that's the kind of thing that I think local government is there to support. You know, we build community. We can't create jobs. You know, businesses do that, industry does that. But what we can do is make it a place where people want to live. If they want to live here, that's where they'll be. Yeah.
And it's a big area. It also includes Mount Robson right up to the border.
Oh,
Is
it
that right?
does. You know, not discounting that at all. It's a spectacular place. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's a huge area, and I love it. And that's too, to me, somebody's, you know, asked, I'm not from McBride or from Valemount or from anywhere. My home is the Valley, you know, and I've explored just about every inch of it, and I thoroughly love it.
That's great. You know, I think there's a lot of people in the Valley who haven't explored our own Valley enough. You've probably done it more with all your travels on regional district business. And so that's
doing
good.
census. I was the census supervisor for the 2006 census, and that was a huge learning. You know, that it got me out and about into all sorts of little places that I didn't even know existed. It was
Nice.
so much fun.
Nice. All right, well, let's get into our questions.
Okay.
So the regional district has a document. It's called Strategic Priorities 2016 to 2019. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
So they identified 5 strategic priorities for the whole regional district, including Area H, and those are community sustainability, climate change, economic diversification, First Nation relations, and solid waste management. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those issues as they pertain to specifically Valemount in the area. I know you're representative for a big area, but that's what these are the important items for our area here.
Okay.
So we'll start with housing because as you've heard probably at the forum and you've heard on the streets, there is a shortage of housing.
Especially affordable housing.
Affordable housing,
Oh, my word.
for sure. Yeah.
And it's frightening. You know, again, with that community building, attracting people to live here, they can't move here if they don't have a place to live.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're having a housing shortage here. It's affecting everybody, not just home builders, home buyers, home renters, seniors, anybody looking for any kind of affordable housing. It's a fairly serious situation. And what we're running into now is people who are considering taking jobs here but can't find housing, and then having to turn away. We're getting good candidates to come into the area. They love the area. They want to be here. They want to, you know, experience Valemount and can't be. So it's an issue. Under community sustainability in the regional district's strategic plan is housing is one of the areas. So a question for you in this area is, what do you think the regional district should work on over the next 4 years to help Valemount deal with the areas, Valemount and the area? So when I'm talking about Valemount, I'm talking about the immediate area, Cedarside, and kind of the surrounding area as well, to deal with the housing shortage issues. Are there things that the regional district can do?
Oh, absolutely. Land use planning. You know, allowing, you know, smaller acreages to be put into, or larger acreages to be put into smaller places. We just did a subdivision where we divided a piece of property into 6. You know, so facilitating that where it is feasible, making sure that we're considering all of the values of land use in the area, but making sure that we have land available for people to build and buy and build a home on. So that's an important thing that we can do, and supporting things like zoning changes to allow for pocket neighborhoods. You know, small houses. You can put 3 small houses on a lot if we have the zoning for it, if we have the ability to do that. If we can change the strictures around square footage so that we can build smaller houses. You know, people like that tiny house piece.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that would like to do that and just can't at the moment, right?
And can't. So we're looking at ways to work with people to build, you know, to encourage that kind of development and make sure people have the ability to do that if they need to. So that's and these are slow processes, and it's been constantly. We need to be more proactive as well. What frustrates me a little bit about government in general, provincial, all levels, is that we're reactive. You know, problem comes up, we will have to throw resources to solve it. Why not look a little bit further down the road and see what's coming, and let's put some things in place so that we can manage that. So that's what I want to do and do more of.
I think in this situation, the regional district, as it relates to the Valemount Glacier Destinations Resort, was involved very early on in rezoning and looking at that, but probably also thinking about what will this do to the community in terms of
Very
housing,
much
in
so.
terms of services, and the area as well, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we're going to drop an elephant in your backyard.
You better make sure that there's housing
Yeah,
available.
exactly.
You better
So,
make sure that
you know,
there's a place for workers to live.
a lot of times people think, well, it's Valemount and Valemount has a council and they deal with everything else, but it's a partnership with the regional district. We're one of the largest communities in Area H. We probably are the largest
Yes,
community
you
in
are.
Area H, and so it's a partnership with the regional district, right?
Very much so. And we work, we've worked hand in hand with the Valemount Council. And, when we're looking at things, when we're talking about the Valemount Glacier Destination, one of the things that we were concerned about was staff housing, making sure that there's staff housing. But there's also a ripple effect. It's not just staff housing for the resort, but it's all the business and the industry and that it's going to bring with it.
Right.
And those people aren't going to be living out there. They're going to be living here in the Robson Canoe Valley, wherever that may be.
Services pop up. I mean, you look at Revelstoke or Gold, and then they open a ski hill there, and immediately people start opening shops for ski rentals and sales
Exactly.
and sporting goods, and
You're
more
getting a new
restaurants and
motel.
that kind of
You're
thing.
getting a new motel here. Where are they going to find the people to work, and where are those people going to live?
That's right. Yeah.
And these are not high-paying jobs where people can afford to spend $1 million on a house. These are not minimum wage, but these are lower. Just average paying.
Right.
But they also need a place to live, and they need to be able to have ownership in their community too. When you work here, you don't want to be a renter forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Whistler was pretty proactive back in the day with creating a housing authority and looking, far down the line, saying we want staff to come back here year after year after year, right? And so we've got to have some housing for them. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. They'll come back once. They'll say, "Oh, I can't find housing, and I got to go, work somewhere else." And people also want to invest in that community because they love it, right?
Yeah, if they do want to invest. And that's one thing actually I could do more of, is work with the Valemount Affordable Housing Society to find out what the issues are, even though it's a Valemount, but it's still, you're right, it's a surrounding area as well, and might be able to find out some partnership opportunities to say this is what we want to do. And we have to listen to people too, listen to groups and organizations that are coming up with innovative solutions. And we got to make sure that they've got the tools and the resources and that they're heard. And to say, yes, okay, that sounds like an idea, how do we make that happen? Instead of just discounting it and saying, no, it's not possible.
Oh, that's great. That's a great approach. Let's kind of keep on the housing side, but move to seniors housing. So seniors housing is specifically identified also in the district's strategic plan. The Valemount Senior Citizens Housing Society operates 26 residential seniors housing units here. Now those are just living units, they're not care units. They're full, and there's a waiting list.
Of course.
Society is looking at possibilities to expand the housing offerings that they have. Alongside of this is one of the most urgent senior care issues facing Valemount right now, and that is the lack of extended care facility here.
Assisted living.
Assisted
my
living,
goodness,
right.
Assisted living, and that's needed throughout the valley.
Yeah.
And we're looking at this, and we're going, this is why thinking of this as a Robson Canoe Valley, valley-wide, is very important. If we price out, each community has its strengths, each community has its own abilities in this. I would like to see a larger senior center built somewhere in the valley, wherever that may be, whether it's closer to the McBride Hospital, and I know that people in Valemount are asking for a Valemount Hospital. But if we look at the resources and where they're allocated, can we allocate some resources to build a seniors facility that will serve the whole valley? That will provide that assisted living and extended care and that continuum of care. I got to stop talking with my hands. I do that too much.
That's fine. That's fine.
But providing that continuum of care, we've have people who are passionate about this. Working throughout the valley. I sit on the Robson Valley Health Association board, and that has people from all over the valley, from both communities, all the communities, and Area H as well, working on some of these things. And we're talking about having seniors complexes where we have some independent living. We have some townhouse type where it's semi-assisted, where we've got some, and then moving into that continuum of care, and eventually ending up in the extended care unit of the hospital for palliative care.
Right.
That end of life care, and that's important. And when we're doing, and I'm getting older.
Aren't we all?
I give you some, but we have people that really do need that assisted living. And I've seen the difference between someone who has a lot of family advocating and working to support them and someone who doesn't. And we need to bridge that gap,
Right.
So that the quality of life is just as good for the people who don't have huge amounts of family and who don't have those resources. We need to step in and bridge that gap.
Right. Well, we're on the cusp of the baby boomers aging into that category where they need, and granted, the care is prolonging life. So maybe 60 is the new 40, right, or 50 or
God,
whatever
I hope
it is.
So.
But people are living longer. So they need multiple levels of care.
Yes.
They need residential living where they're totally independent at an affordable basis. They need perhaps some assistance with maybe meals and light housekeeping and laundry and that kind of care.
Like continuum of care.
The continuum of care, as you were talking about. But right now we have a heartbreaking situation in that we're separating families, right? We're sending people to, there's not much space in McBride either, so we're ending up sending people to Prince George, to Kamloops or further
and
afield.
It's killing them.
It's killing them.
It really is.
Yeah. And the families as well. It's very hard because you have a couple that's been married for 50 years, for example, and one of them has to go to Prince George. How often is the other one going to be able to visit, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard on them, it's hard on the immediate family, and we just...
I hear how passionate you are about that, and it's the same way. It is absolutely a crime to take somebody out of a community where they are loved and supported and stick them into a city where they don't know the people, they don't have that level of care, they're not used to it, and expect them to adjust at 90 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. So you're absolutely right. Now, I know that the province and BC Housing has coming forward with funding for these sorts of things. And Valemount is not too small. And the Robson Valley, even if it is too small, the Robson Canoe Valley is not too small. We're good.
Right.
So
if we can partner together, maybe we get something done. Huh?
I think so. This is a region-wide initiative, and I think there are some tremendous opportunities. And not just that, we have passionate people advocating for that. And that is the key feature. When you've got passionate people who are willing to work to make this happen, you give them. You give them the resources, you give them the ladder to stand on, and you support them 100% in what they're doing.
So the question, I guess, is, after we've had all that, is if elected, will you take those concerns to the board and say, what can be done? How can we help make this work? Because we're at a kind of a pinnacle right now of will and funding around housing.
Yes.
The federal government has programs, the provincial government has programs, CBT has funding, the Canoe Basin Trust, the regional district can certainly help, maybe NDIT could help, Northern Health could be involved.
Just had this conversation.
Right.
Just had the same thing where I'm talking about all the stars are aligning for a project like this to move forward. Mm-hmm. And yes, absolutely. I've been putting groups together. And again, mostly through the Robson Health Association. And we've been talking about this, and this is, and I've been tapping certain people who are, because we need a leader to drive this program forward.
Right.
Someone who's focused and dedicated just on that. We need that push. So I've been identifying people who do have that ability, have the time, and have the resources. Mm-hmm. So this is, and again, getting behind them and pushing.
Great, great.
100%.
All right, so let's move on to our second question, which is economic development, economic diversity. I mean, it's a bread and butter question in any election.
Yes.
However, it's no less important now. We're growing here in Valemount in terms of homes being built, homes being sold, new businesses are opening, tourism continues to be on the increase every year here. However, there's still a fair bit we can do in terms of fostering further growth, particularly on the business and industrial side.
Okay.
We've been concentrating on the residential side and on the small business side, but not really so much on larger or medium-sized businesses in that area. The district has identified economic diversification as a strategic priority.
Yes.
Valemount in the area has a couple of really good assets that can help us with that, and one of them is the Valemount Industrial Park, which is located in Cedarside, right? They have land available there, they have the right zoning, and things can happen there. And they also have a really good team that can really push things forward.
With the community forest, they've got a fabulous team, and you've got a great manager in Craig.
Yeah, so we've got that. And we've also got the college, which I think you just kind of stumbled onto down the hall here, which is the Valemount College, which wants to offer programs both locally and a little further afield. So we've got a couple of things happening for us here. Also, another potential if maybe not controversial, diversification is the upcoming legalization of cannabis, happening in less than 2 weeks. Possibly an offshoot of that, hemp production,
Yes.
retail, maybe online sales, those kind of things. So I guess it's a bread and butter question. But what ideas do you have for working with Valemount in the area to help stimulate economic development and diversity? Because they're both important.
Incredibly important, and having a diverse tax base is how you keep your community sustainability. So that when you don't, when one industry slows down or falls apart like Carrier did, we have other things that keep us sustainable until we can come up with something else to pick up the slack. So you're absolutely right about that. So certain things that we can do as local government is continue to advocate for high-speed internet and high-speed access. That is incredibly important in order to get businesses to move here, because everything revolves around that these days. It's not like a telephone. It's actually like sewer and water. It is an essential service. Yeah. So we're going to keep pushing forward towards that. And that also brings clean energy here. I like things like the geopark and the geothermal, and building a geothermal plant. Actually, I spoke with Sonia Firstenau about, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had electric car charging station powered by geothermal energy? Yeah, I know. And I'd like to see Andrew Weaver come up here. And that's another thing that we can do. We can keep making sure that the ministers and the provincial decision makers are up here interacting with our people and learning what our concerns are, so that when there are opportunities for economic development like geothermal, they have the resources to help with that as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm so much answering your question, because I know that governments don't create jobs, businesses do.
But they
what
create
we
the
can
environment
do,
for it.
yes,
Yeah.
but what we can do is create that environment so that it is, business friendly. We make sound land use planning decisions. We work with businesses, just like we've worked with the Valemount Glacier Destination Resort, to make sure that their ideas can happen. Make sure that the regulations and the rules are not stopping business.
Right.
But they're facilitating it and keeping people safe as well.
I'm going to back you up a little bit to the high-speed internet, because
I
think we've been advocating until our heads are flattened against the wall from beating them against the wall so long with TELUS for getting that, and we don't seem to be getting any further ahead in terms of making it happen. I recently, here at VCTV, we do a lot of uploading. All our videos get uploaded to YouTube. It takes 18 to 24 hours for me to upload a council meeting.
Oh dear.
So we were just at 15 megabit per second download and 0.6 megabit per second upload. Not even one.
Oh my goodness.
And TELUS said, well, we have a new plan, and it's 25 megabit per second download and 6 megabit per second upload. Now, that doesn't sound much. If you're living in the city and you're getting 300, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's tenfold. It's a tenfold increase for me.
Yes, it is.
It now takes minutes for me to upload that council meeting where it took hours before, right?
Yeah.
To do it. So, and I'm just one little thing, but we have people who are working in land use, and they need to digitize large maps.
Oh my goodness,
graphic designers. We have people working on computer programming and other things. And we could attract more of those people.
Absolutely.
Those small, independent lone wolves that could come into this
We're
valley.
talking about diversity.
Right.
Absolutely. I was talking to one of our, a person who worked on computers and programs and fixed them. He said, he knows 10 people who would move to this valley if we had high-speed upload speeds. So you're absolutely right. So one thing that I've been encouraged about, because you're right, beating the head at flatheads. We're all flatheads.
We do it well, though.
We do it well. We do it well. I spoke with Ginny Sims, who is the Minister of sort of Public Affairs, I guess. But under her purview comes things like that last mile internet service. I know. And procurement policies, which is huge too. That's another issue we'll get to. So they're just as invested, or at least she is, in that last mile internet, service and providing high-speed broadband, not just, the dribs and drabs. So there's funding available through NDIT that we've written letters of support for smaller internet providers, not just the big guys, to provide that last mile service. People like Monashee and ABC Communications and what have you throughout our areas.
Right.
So 100% supporting that. Whatever we can do, we're going to continue. And we're going to continue to advocate. We're going to continue to work with other government ministries, because things like if there's a government service, they need that high-speed internet as well. So,
Right.
you know, when they have, say, the weigh scales, they need that real-time data and they need that high-speed internet service. So, you know, so working with other ministries to make sure that those places are put in. They were just put in wireless internet at Wirecache and at the Terry Fox rest areas. So, you know, we're moving towards that.
Since you brought that up, I do want to mention, and that is one thing that is actually a real concern and a safety issue, and that is the lack of internet access on the roads.
Cell phone service on the road.
Yeah,
oh my word, yes.
Yeah. Because, you know, we often have many road accidents in this area in dead zones where, no pun intended there, in areas where there is no service.
We desperately need a
situation.
cell phone tower at Mount Robson. And that's something I'm pushing for as a specific ask. Not just saying to tell us in the government that we need better coverage, but saying we need a tower at Mount Robson because of the deaths, because of the accidents, because of the, you know, that's the place where people go in order when there is a problem, you know, somebody's having a heart attack or what have you. It's a safety issue, it's a public health issue. It is incredibly important.
Yeah,
and I think we're moving towards that. I'm not making any promises, but I've heard positive, you know, some positive feedback on that. So I'm not going to stop pushing until we get a cell tower at Mount Robson.
Yeah, that's very important to the whole area.
Yes.
Let's move on to the topic of air quality. Another one of the strategic priorities identified in the regional district plan is climate change.
Yes.
It's one of the big pillars. According to the BC Lung Association's 2017 State of the Air report, Valemount had the worst measured air quality in British Columbia in 2016. We had nearly double the annual average of PM 2.5 emissions, and a provincial baseline of 25 micrograms per cubic meter in the air was exceeded on 72 out of 365 days. So 1 out of every 5 days. And in that year, not unlike this year where we had forest fire smoke in 2017, there were no wildfire smoke advisories issued. So it was all atmospheric conditions in terms of either high dust off the lake here or heavy-duty smoke in the wintertime.
Right? That's so dangerous.
Do you have a plan or ideas that you could bring back to the regional district that could address this issue of poor air quality in Valemount? And if you do have a plan or if you have some ideas, could you provide some specifics? So what I'm talking about here is perhaps, I'm not saying go into people's homes and take their wood stoves, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But perhaps to incentivize the upgrade of wood stoves to catalytic converter wood stoves that are more modern and burn more efficiently, or pellet stoves, right? We don't have gas in the area, and that's unfortunate. So wood is the economic reality that we're in. It's too expensive to heat your home electrically here, so it's wood. So what we need is an incentive program here that will allow people to say, okay, this stove I've got, I know it's old and whatever else, but I can't afford to do it. So, but if we could get to the point, the BC Lung Association offers either a 10 or 15% incentive now on wood stove upgrades. But if we could get to the point where it's 40% or 50%, then people, I think, would look seriously at upgrading. You know, because not only are they're helping the environment, which for some people isn't that real a concern or big a concern, but it's more efficient and it heats your home better, right? And so you use less wood and all of those things. So anyway, what about ideas you might or just want to talk about this?
You just talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the regional district is a part of the Prince George Air Quality Roundtable, and we participate in the wood stove exchange program for the villages of Valemount and McBride. So you can get up to $700 for exchange, and that isn't enough.
No.
You know, especially when wood stoves are costing upwards of $3,000 for the energy efficient ones. Yeah. So I'd like to see a provincial matching program with that. You know, so that we can offer $1,400. Well, then that's getting closer to your 40 or 50%.
Right.
Also, education. Telling people, you know, you have to replace your catalytic combustion units every once in a while. You know, when you make sure you're burning dry, seasoned wood, and supporting the businesses that are offering that. You know, if we can, I think people want to do the right thing. And people understand the dangers of air quality, especially as they age and they're breathing, you know, they have lung compromised, and everyone knows someone who is lung compromised.
Absolutely.
So I think people want to do the right thing. I think we give them the education and the tools to do that. It is a tough one, and it's changing that mindset. And you're right. And Valemount also has, with the dust off the lake is a huge deal. I was working with the rec centers, and it degrades their equipment.
Is that right?
Yes, it does. Like it gets into the water, and it erodes and so the life cycle of their equipment is less because of that. So I think that's a bigger issue. I think that's a provincial issue, and we need to get some serious remedies proposed for that.
Well, it's caused by the water level being controlled on Kinbasket Lake by BC Hydro.
Yes.
And some of the solutions, one of the solutions most commonly I've heard is to build a weir to keep that water at that end of the lake from drying out, from
All right, so I'd like to get a little bit more working on that. I think that's important. And you're in a valley where there's an inversion. A lot of times what'll happen is layer of cold air, and a layer of cold air will sit on top, and everything gets choked in.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that happens in McBride as well, this inversion effect. So again, it's about education, providing those incentives, and you're absolutely right about that, and we're working on that. So that's, I'm not as much help on this as I'd like to be, and I'd like to be more help, and I'd like to advocate for more funding. Now, I sit on the Fraser Basin Council, which is, again, environmental, social, and economic sustainability for communities. So we're very much concerned in that. I sit on the climate change climate action roundtable for agriculture. I sit, in on these things. I'm learning as much as I can about it and being involved as much as I can with it, and advocating again, because the air quality in Prince George is, that's one thing, but it's worse in Valemount.
Right.
It really is.
It is, yeah.
And we need just as much attention paid to that as we do in Prince George.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's take it a little further afield then. The other situation we have is in open air burning, and not just in Valemount, because we have regulations regarding that, but in the regional district as well.
Yep.
The community forest is burning slash piles. Farmers and property owners are burning slash piles out there. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of discussion about that, and it is contributing to the problem. And we
now
need to,
that is okay, and I got to go with that. I've learned a little bit about that. Have a little farm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all good. Little tiny farm.
Right.
Okay. Now, that is entirely provincially controlled. There's nothing we don't have any say on that. However, the province is putting regulations in place, making sure that there isn't an inversion, making sure that that the smoke has an opportunity to leave. There's air, you can only burn on certain times and certain days when the wind and atmospheric conditions.
With all those,
okay,
yeah.
I know. So there's that, and it's also an education piece as well.
Right. There are other things that can be done in terms of alleviating that problem. When we had a difficult situation here a couple of years ago in Valemount, we talked to a company that has a pellet manufacturing firm in Prince George, and they said, well, if you can get enough people together to make it worth our while, we'll come down and we will chip all of the slash piles that you can find for us.
Yes.
We won't pay you for it, but we'll do the work for free, and we'll truck it up to Prince George for free, and we'll use it in our pellet manufacturing. That's one side. I know they've been talking here at the Valemount Community Forest about finding someone to manufacture pellets here. And they're also now, as you probably are aware, discussing the opportunity of maybe opening a mill here.
Yeah.
Right? So perhaps between that, we can have a mill with a side offshoot of pellet manufacturing, right? And we can have somebody picking up this wood instead of burning. Because I know I've spoken with Craig Pryor at the Community Forest. They don't want to burn their wood.
No.
It's waste. It's a waste for everybody.
It would be nice.
And if you can make biomass fuel like pellets like that, everybody benefits, right? The environment benefits, the economy benefits.
I understand that, and I've got a couple of minds about that, 6 minds about that. It's all fighting in my head.
It's like I want to be in your head. It sounds like a scary place.
It is a scary, scary place. Okay. I've put a lot of thought into this, and I understand the biochar and the biofuels industry. I understand the idea of taking the wood out of the forests. I'm seeing that weaken a lot of our forests. We're not putting nutrients back into the forest. We're taking and taking and taking it all out. And you've seen the effect of that with the increasing desertification of the province as it's moving up through Clearwater and into Valemount. Okay, so we've got an issue there. You know, you take the ground cover, you don't put anything back into the forest, you end up with nothing left. That's a very real possibility. I agree that, you know, instead of, I love the idea of chipping, if we can bring it back into the forest. It becomes, and there are opportunities to balance the both of them. Build a pellet plant, making sure that you're leaving enough nutrients in the forest to sustain them. I also like the idea of opening up our slash piles and our burn piles to firewood. You know, for people who cut and sell firewood. And doing that and encouraging more of that, bringing them out to the side of the road so that it makes it a little bit easier for people to scavenge wood and get some, you know, they get it for their own projects, for their own, if it's waste anyway, why not let people use it and make money off of it? Little small businesses supporting community and sustainability. So I understand what you're saying about, and I agree that just burning things is not necessarily the best solution, but also we have to look at things from a balanced perspective, supporting our local residents, our small business, and if we're doing if more people are collecting this waste wood as firewood and they're burning, you know, and they're doing it in the spring and the summer, and they're letting it season and then they're selling it as firewood, then we've got a great source of dry seasoned firewood. We have that educational opportunities to make sure that people are burning it correctly and moving towards that sustainability piece. So it's everybody working together on this solution. We know it's a problem. How do we solve it?
Yeah, and I think that is the key, is getting everybody to work together, because when you talk about, and I've been a proponent of better air quality here, when I talk about it, the first thing is, well, you can't take my wood stove. And I said, well, I'm not suggesting that. Calm down. What we're talking about is ways to minimize this, right?
Yeah.
Because there are ways, right? And, but it's a question of economics, a question of territorialism sometimes. And, you know, we live in the mountains. We're mountain people. We do what we feel we want to do, right?
Yeah.
That's right. But I think we also have to realize that, hey, my neighbor's just developed asthma. I've talked to I think I've done 7 or 8 interviews now. 2 of them have either themselves or family member developed asthma in the last few years, and they attribute it to the smoke levels.
Oh yeah.
Both the provincial smoke levels from the fires and the wood burning in the wintertime. So it's a very real problem, and I don't think we can just say, oh well, you know, it is what it is, right?
No,
that time
not
has
at all.
passed. But there is that synergy of, if we can get the regional district, if we can get the village, if we can get the province, all working together on a solution,
and if we
rather
can
than
get
trying to do it ourselves.
Yes, 100%. You know, and people supporting the people who are doing these things and moving towards this, and working with the community forest on some of these issues to make it easier for people to access that wood, so that it's not being, you know, so that it's being burned properly in wood stoves.
Absolutely.
And full disclosure, I have a wood stove. I just went and spent $300 on a new catalytic combustion unit because mine needed to be replaced. And I have wood that I've collected all spring and summer, seasoned wood. You can't even tell that I've got a fire going most of the time.
They did. I don't know if you were there, but they did a wood burning thing. I can't recall who organized it, but it was at the community hall here, and the fellow brought in some simulated wood stoves kind of thing, and showed the difference between burning seasoned wood and non-seasoned wood, and you could see it. You know, somebody burning seasoned wood, hardly a puff of smoke out of that thing. The other one, big gray puffs of cloudy smoke,
yes,
right?
a dirty particulate, and the particulates.
One thing, right?
Yeah. So it's that education, encouragement, helping out our neighbors,
right?
You know, and when we've got a senior neighbor that we see is struggling, you know, with it, give them a hand. You know, bring over a cord of wood. Do it. You know, it is, and helping each other, and that builds community, and it builds that goodwill, and we're all working towards a solution. Whenever I hear people say you should, look at them. You should pick up a shovel, get busy.
We should. How about that?
Exactly.
Yeah, we should.
We should. Let's do this, because, you know, I don't believe that government can solve every problem. I think that people do. And but what government can do is get out of the way when people are doing good things, and making sure that we're supporting them with what they're doing, because when I see, maybe I have a rosy colored view of the world, and maybe I do, because that's the world I live in. I live in a world where people are basically decent. They want to do the right thing. They're hardworking, and they're kind. So give them the tools. Keep up with that. You know,
Yeah.
that's the world I want to live in.
Don't we all?
Yes, I know,
Right?
but that is the world I live in.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
because
nice.
that's what I see around me, and that's what I support.
Great. Let's move on to another topic. This one is on the Canoe Valley Recreation Center.
Okay.
So the district is facing some challenges. It's an expensive facility to operate. I'm trying to put it as mildly as possible.
Oh my goodness!
I'll let you expound on it.
$750,000
Right,
almost.
to operate per
to
year.
operate.
Currently, or I think you may have just finished the online surveys.
Yeah, but
something.
that's just the beginning.
Okay, and I also heard there was a plan to hold some public meetings. So let me just ask you the question. So what ideas does the regional district and yourself have to get more use out of the recreational center? And what are you doing to address the operating cost situation?
All of everything. Oh, it's a huge concern. So first of all, we have a committee, a consultation committee, and those meetings are open to the public. So we want to make sure that everybody comes to those. And
They're upcoming.
they're upcoming.
Okay.
You know, we don't. We're moving forward with them now. And this is not in any way, I'm not making any excuses, but the regional district staff has gone through some major changeover. We've lost 3 senior personnel, and we're moving more people, you know, new people into that role. So everything during my entire term, you know, I worked with Terry McKeon for a year, and then he's gone. You know, I worked with Donna Munt for 2 years, and she's gone. You know, it has been.
You're not a jinx by any chance.
I know, but they were all planning to retire.
Okay, there you
You
go.
know, so it was. So it's been really hard to get some momentum going on these things, but I've seen these as problems, and they're bigger problems, like they're valley-wide problems. It's costing people an enormous amount of money, and they're not getting the use out of it that they need to.
Right.
You know, the hours aren't for some conducive to using the Fit Pit. The regulations that are coming down from the province, the WorkSafe BC, and because of the Fernie situation, you know, they piled a bunch more inspections and regulations and
Right.
must-dos
Right.
onto it, which costs us money as well. It has been a challenge, a real challenge, but these are valuable facilities. You know, they are valuable. What we're talking about, how we keep people here
Right,
and
right.
improve that quality of life. Seniors are using the fitness center. I had one guy say, you know, if there wasn't an arena so that I could play hockey, I wouldn't live here. You know, and that's very true. Giving our kids the opportunities to participate in hockey and figure skating and team sports, and you know, something more to do in the winter than play video games. They can go down and play, you know, pond hockey at the arena.
Right.
So it's a tough situation all the way around, and that's why got this community consultation. We've got the surveys, first of all, to begin, and then town halls so that we can understand what people value out of that facility and how we can facilitate, you know, their use and enjoyment of the facility while reining back some costs where we can.
Right.
That means shortening the ice season, and these are not things that are going to happen. I always, you know, you get 18 million angry phone calls.
Oh, yeah. You
this.
will.
Yes, I will. It's all good. Or does it mean investing in some capital improvements to make the Fit Center, Fit Pit, accessed year-round by people with cards? You know, just a card system in and a card system out.
Right.
And what does that look like? And what are the liability issues with that? So that people can use the facility 12, 14 hours a day, whether there's an attendant there or not.
Right.
Looking at capital improvements to swap out the ammonia for another system that doesn't require the extensive ticketing and WCB and all of those requirements. So looking at those solutions as well and taking those opportunities. What I'm frustrated with is the province saying, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, and oh, by the way, no, we're not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Thank you. They're doing that with fire protection, all the new regulations and everything. So fire protection is going up. They're doing that with the road rescue service. The regulations and the lack of support that they've shown. When we're just here. We're a community. We're supporting this. We're paying for it because we don't like to see people die on the highway. But
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah, so it is all of a piece, but I think the main point that I'm going with this is we need to engage the community. We need to have these conversations. We need to make changes that are fully informed, fully informed people so that they know what we're doing, why we're doing it, that they support, they may not be happy with it, but they understand the reasons and they support it so that we can move towards a sustainable operation.
Right. I used to work before this in the hotel industry, and I can tell you that there would be no possible way I could run a hotel profitably if I would only open it 6 months of the year.
Yes.
Right? So you've got this big barn of a building sitting empty at least 6 months of the year. And that's a big thing that I think needs to be addressed is how do you get more usage out of a facility in the spring, summer, and fall before the hockey season and the skating season and everything else starts? Because if you can do that, if you can even get 10% usage in the summertime, that's a huge amount back into covering the costs of running the facility, right? So,
actually, it kind of isn't. User fees? Okay.
Not just user fees, but I'm talking about, for example, let's throw a wacky idea off the.
I love wacky ideas.
Indoor rodeo.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be so much fun.
Right. Something along that line. If you can do something, or something that lasts the whole summer long, right? Like summer basketball camps, or summer hockey camps, or summer whatever the case may be.
And make it easier for groups to get in there without making it cost prohibitive.
Yeah. So it's not just a user fee to the organization. So maybe people pay $500 for the whole summer to attend a hockey camp or whatever it is, or 2 months.
Yeah.
And
so
that
it's not.
helps,
It isn't. You're absolutely right, because that speaks to something different. It won't help our economic challenges. It really won't. But what it'll do is it'll make the facility more valuable and more user-friendly for the people that live here. And you're absolutely right. So we need groups to come forward and say, this is what we want to do. And we need to sit down with them and say, hey, this is how you can do it. Let's get to yes.
I think most municipalities would agree that facilities like that will never cover their own costs or user fees.
No.
You'd have to charge people, $1,000 to come in and skate for the weekend kind of thing, right?
By the minute.
So it's 3/4 of a public service and 25% user fees, right? That will help you cover your costs.
But we want to see more people use it and get the full value, and it's value for dollars, more so than anything else. If we're spending the dollars, we might as well get the value out of it. But what we're not going to do is hire two other people for an extra $150,000 to run these programs.
Yeah, that makes no sense either.
No, it's not.
Right, but
so
you can
we're not
probably
going
come
to do
up
that.
with ways, I think, with the surveys and other things that you're doing that you can say, hey, that's not a bad idea. Hey, that could work, right?
Exactly, and that's my approach with everything. It really is. Somebody comes to me with an idea. My first thing is, how do we make this work? It breaks my heart when we can't, but usually there's something in it that we can do.
Right.
It is.
Absolutely. Let's move on to a more topical topic.
Topical topic. Yeah, skin cream.
Cannabis.
Oh.
I'm not sure you can use it on your skin.
I'm pretty sure you can.
There may be. Recreational use obviously becomes legal on October the 17th.
Okay, don't point at me.
Well, I'm just kind of putting it out there. It's going to have impacts. It's going to have impacts for all the communities. It's going to have impacts for everyone in terms of whether municipalities are going to allow retail sales of it, how they're going to do it, where they're going to use, control usage in public areas, etc. How do you protect the youth, or can you protect the youth, or what protections can you put in place? Growing, both. I believe the Act calls for 4 personal plants, but there are people who might want to, in an agricultural piece of property in the regional district, grow medicinally or grow for sales, and they have to get licenses. Of course, it has to be all done legitimately, right?
Yeah.
So there are challenges, and I'm wondering if, in your time on the board, have they discussed this? And have they got actual concrete things in place, or are they just at the discussion phase now?
At the discussion at UBCM, looking, we waited for what the province was going to do, because it couldn't really. That's the bare bones of marijuana legalization and the rules around it. And we're discussing what we're doing with ag land. It's a cash crop.
Absolutely.
It's a way to make farming profitable again.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's funny because I had a conversation with my son on my little itty bitty farm. I said, if you can find a way to make money, and live off the farm, because he loves to do that. He loves animals. He loves being around in that, and that's he's very self-directed. Then you're welcome to stay with me, and you don't have to pay rent or anything. We'll work it together. And so he thinks about it, and he looks at my greenhouse, and he goes, pot's going to be legal soon, isn't it? And I'm all like, no. No, you can't do that. So there are going to be regulations around odor control, and the greenhouses that it can contain systems for marijuana because of the safety factor. We'll see. But I also think, I'm going to get killed for saying this. I'm just going to get killed for it. I heard them, if you go back in history, when they lifted prohibition, a lot of these same conversations were had.
I can imagine, sure.
The same fears, the same everything. So I think we'll work our way through this. It's not, I think we're making a little bit, it is a big deal. And I agree with keeping our kids safe. And as a single working mom and a single mom working with my kids, we had conversations about marijuana, about alcohol, about everything, and alcohol was the toughest one because it's legal.
Right.
Yeah.
So marijuana will be.
And marijuana
right?
will be legal. Yeah. But we had conversations about it. This is acceptable use, this is not acceptable use, and we had the same conversations around marijuana. You don't drive, you don't, right. all of these things, these safety things to put into place. And it's very much the same. So we've already got the mechanism in place with alcohol that we will have with marijuana, to keep kids safe, not allowed to buy, ID, all of these things, and we as a society need to work to keep our kids safe, to educate our kids, and it is damaging to them. Same as alcohol is damaging to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and getting behind the wheel of a car when you are inebriated in any fashion is it's scary.
Right.
As a parent, that was the scariest thing. I thought, I did not realize how afraid I would be the first time my kids took a car for themselves. So that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So you're right about keeping kids safe is a primary responsibility. Right. I think we need to just relax about some of the other things because it's not as big of a deal, I think, as we're making it. We need to make sure that it's done properly. And one thing I've got to say, this is an actual peeve of mine. I don't think that we should be regulating marijuana use in public the way we're regulating smoking use, where it's up to a municipality and a bylaw. It should be regulated the same thing as open carry. It's a controlled substance, just like alcohol is. Right. So you should not be allowed to smoke it, or just like you can't drink in public spaces except for in prescribed areas. You shouldn't be allowed to smoke marijuana in public places or have it, it should, and in a way that it can be, isn't packaged and put away in your purse type of thing. Right. I don't know. Men wear purses too. It's called a merce man purse. Right. Yes. So those and it should be controlled by the provincial police, just like open carry is. Not by, we shouldn't be downloading that expense of patrolling this and monitoring this and enforcing this onto more of our municipalities.
Right.
It's expensive.
Which are already understaffed and under budgeted as they are. Right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's a controlled substance, so it should be regulated the same way alcohol is.
Okay, but to bring it around to my question, so the regional district has discussed this, and they do have some policies and procedures that they're working on in terms of this.
Absolutely,
and
especially
they will cover growing as well.
Yes.
In agricultural lands.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and public consultation as well. So anytime there's a dispensary or that's our biggest thing is let's make sure that it's in the areas where people support it and that it's not in the areas where people don't.
Right.
That's the biggest point. We're all about being good neighbors. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. It's just a different thing for us because the adults in the room are all of a time when this was illegal, right? And we carry a lot of biases. Some of us carry biases for or against the use, right? So it's hard to push those aside and say, okay, this is the law of the land now. We've got to get it together because it could be an economic stimulator, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You could have shops opening, you could have farms opening, you could have whatever.
Done responsibly?
So, yeah.
Fabulous,
right.
Absolutely fabulous. The same way with Three Ranges Brewery. Isn't that a wonderful addition to the town?
Absolutely.
It is, and I think that's the kind of thing that we're looking at.
Right.
It is. That's the way I see it. It's no different than Three Ranges Brewery.
Yeah.
You're building a product. Adult consumption. It's the way it is. Yeah, and I got to say though, we'll see. I think this was.
Everybody's on that.
I think
right.
the adults in the room, when we're talking about adults in the room, legal or illegal, my mom was at Woodstock.
right. I do think one of the nice unsung benefits of this is that we have an opioid crisis in the province right now,
yeah.
and a lot of it is coming through marijuana that's laced with fentanyl or with carfentanil or other things.
You get it off your independent grower, your neighborhood grower.
Right.
You know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting.
You know what else? You know what else is?
And it's regulated.
It's all excited now. I'm all excited. But it's also going to allow us to use cannabinoids for medical use,
Right.
which are the no THC, but they've been proven to be effective in epilepsy and in other things, and in cancer treatments.
Yeah.
We can explore the health benefits of the cannabinoids and the other products that are with it. And you're right about the hemp as well. Hemp is not marijuana. You can't smoke it and get high. Well, you
Right.
can smoke a field of it and get high, but who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So, but it's great for, it's renewable, it is fast growing, it's used in all sorts of things. So it is a great product
Right.
to be able to use. And once that stigma of illegal, use is taken away, I mean, sailors used to use hemp rope all the time.
Right,
Right.
right.
So once we destigmatize, which is going to take probably a generation, the things that surround the marijuana. What everybody's focused on the drug aspect of it, on the controlled substance.
Sure.
But that's just a small piece of that industry, and I think that there could be some enormous benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, just one more topic on our list here, and that's
it?
Yeah, recycling. One of the regional district's strategic priorities is solid waste
Yeah.
management.
We just had a conversation about this.
Nice.
No.
We have a transfer station here. We have a number of recycling options, which is great. However, the one thing the village doesn't offer, which we would really like to see here in Valemount, is curbside recycling. Right? It has been proven in other communities to greatly reduce what's going into the landfill. If you can make that convenient for people, to come to your door and get your recyclables, they're going to do a lot more recycling. The question is, and I know this is a village and they have their own regulations, but as part of the regional district, is there something that the regional district can do to work with the village of Valemount to encourage setting up a curbside recycling program?
This is an awesome issue because we just had this conversation about it. Do you realize that you're paying money in order to get curbside recycling?
We are paying now?
Yep, province-wide.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
you're
didn't
funding
realize that.
Yeah, you are. You're funding that through what we call the Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR. The government charges these producers of this waste money, which they recoup through charging more to consumers to dispose of their products. They really do. So you're already paying to have curbside recycling. Now, it isn't offered here because the multi-material marketing companies that work with this, it's not cost effective for them to have curbside recycling and pick it up in these smaller communities.
Right.
It's great for Vancouver, Victoria, Prince George, but these smaller areas and smaller communities, they say it's cost prohibitive. So we're paying for it, but we're not getting it. So what we do as a regional district is we offer materials recycling at our transfer stations, in McBride, in Valemount, in Dunster.
All right.
Right? You're paying through that for your taxes.
Yes.
Yes, he says.
Yes.
Sadly,
Yeah.
sadly.
No,
So you're paying for it twice already. Twice, we're doing that. So we're looking at this at the regional district, and we've been advocating 100% for, first of all, the service that you're already paying for through when you purchase things, so that we get the multi-material recycling business to step up to the plate,
Right.
offer more options for recycling more things. Maybe not curbside, but definitely more convenient. So that, say, you have a recycling bin in town here, or you have the opportunity to do this.
Right.
Now, I'm not in favor of making everything 100% convenient for people so that they can't, and paying for it, paying exorbitant taxes so that people aren't inconvenienced by having to drive a kilometer to take the recycling. I think that that's something that we have to take a little bit of responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I come from, again, a family of, my mom actually was not in favor of recycling, and I'm not really either, because it gives us an opportunity to feel good about what we throw away. We should be reducing and reusing, and that's where we're moving to as a society. Reducing the amount of packaging, grabbing our own bags, making sure that we're not build.
Sure, and I think that's happening to a smaller extent, but it could obviously be
Yeah,
increased.
so that education piece, that increasing that education piece, the single-use straws, we are moving towards there as a province, and unfortunately they're having to regulate it in. I think that we could have greater success with education, and even community pressure. You know, have you brought your bags today? Things like that.
Right.
Okay, so back to recycling. Yeah, I know. I could go on forever. It's a thing. So again, what we're just starting a study program on how we can bring more recycling options to the regional district, you know, throughout each area, without overburdening the taxpayer. And we continue to lobby the government to, the provincial government to step up and enforce the laws they already have, to make that extended producer responsibility piece that we're already paying for actually happen, so that they step up to the plate. And yes, they do have to take our recycling and contribute to the recycling efforts that our villages, our regional districts are already doing.
So if they're not prepared to do it in smaller communities, does this open up an opportunity for an entrepreneur to do it as a small side business, right?
100%, 100% that we do. And I would even like to see, and Steph's going to kill me for this, Petra's just going to, you know, it'll be good. I'll go there, I'll wear armor, it'll be good. But I'd like to see, even at our transfer stations, the opportunity for someone to set up a small recycling business. Vermiculture, worms, you know, anything like that.
Sure.
Utilizing the area that we already have and we already pay for, you know, allowing somebody to come in and do that, you know, get off the ground, so that they're not having to outlay a great deal of expense for a building and property, or using the industrial complex that you have here in Valemount, which is so it's so not lucky, because it wasn't luck that did that. It was hard work and planning and forward thinking that did that.
Great. Well, we just have a few minutes left. We have a question specifically for you. I mean, they were all for you, but they're going to be for your opponent as well to answer. But this one's specifically for you.
Oh, God.
So you're running for you're running for your second term as Area H Director. What would you say is the most important thing you learned from your first term that will help make you an even better director if elected?
Oh, that's a nice question. That's such a nice question.
There you go.
I've learned the system. You know, what I can and can't do, where I can and can't push. You know, I've learned, you know, how the different levels of government work and what is effective. You know, that collaborative approach, that working together. I've learned, you know, so much on how we can push things forward, how we can make things happen. You know, the most effective ways of making things happen. You know, getting people excited and enthusiastic. Bringing, one of the things learned. We had a project where it was going to be shut down because there was this rare species of lichen, you know, that was there. And so what we did is we invited the biologists and to come up and take a look at the you know, because they had made that decision from their desk, you know. So we invited them to come up, toured them around the area, showed them what we're doing, you know, with the protections and stuff, and they approved the project. I know. So getting people up here, getting decision makers and ministers, deputy ministers up here, looking at this area, becoming emotionally invested in it. Lana Popham, agriculture minister, came up to through the Farmers Institute and had a dinner, and she still talks about that and the people that she met and the you know, that is
actual farmers,
actual real farmers who do real things. You know, it's funny because she's from Quadra Island, and her and I, she was 2 years ahead of me in the same school. Yeah, her and I went to school together, so it's interesting. Yeah, I know. We're getting to be that age now. It's interesting. So it is. It's about making things work, and you know, and they've learned something about me too. You know, a little bit. And as my ex-husband will tell you, I am the stubbornest person. I don't yell and shout and stamp my feet, but I very seldom take no for an answer. You know, and I, you know, even if this avenue doesn't work, this avenue over here might work, or this avenue over here might work. Another thing I've learned is, I go around and I'm involved, you know, and again, I said at the forum, I was told at the beginning, you know, what is this job? Because there's no job description. And I was told this job can be as small as you want to make it, you know, attend the board meetings, do the thing, or as big as you want to make it. And absolutely, I everywhere I'm asked to go, I go. And even when I'm not asked, I'll show up at meetings and at community associations and things, learning what people are interested in. And I found that things like backcountry access, The Farmers Institute is interested in that. The tourism groups are interested in that. The emergency planning groups are interested in that. Everybody has that same concern. So how do we get them together to create that message that we send to the provincial government that says, this is why it's important. It's not just this one group saying things, it's all of us saying the same thing over and over again until they listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm talking with my hands and
No,
I'm
that's
doing
fine.
this to the camera, right? You know, it's sort of like, hey.
Well, we're running a little bit short on time, so I want to thank you very
Well,
much for
thank
being
you.
here and answering the questions.
And thank
we
you
wanna-
for the opportunity.
No, you bet, you bet. It's great to hear what you have in mind and what you can possibly take to the next term. At this point, we want to give you just the same opportunity we've given everybody else. You have up to 3 minutes to say whatever it is you'd like to in terms of closing remark, either to the camera or to me.
Well, I got to say, you know, and this is my big, we need to vote. We need to show that we're active, engaged, and enthusiastic about our communities, and we do that. When I can go to the provincial minister and say, we've got a 90 or an 80% voting rate, you know, you will ignore us at your peril. You know, we're not many. You know, we don't have the numbers, but we have the enthusiasm, and we're loud, and we won't give up, and we won't go away. And part of how we show that is being involved and engaged and voting. So phone your friends, phone your family, get them out on October 10th and October 20th. It doesn't, I'm not saying vote for any particular thing, but go out, make your mark. Makes a point. So there's that, and you know, it's been fun. It's, yeah, I gotta say, this area age director, the opportunities that it has afforded me to work with the amazing people in the area, I've gotta stop crossing my legs, because you can see that in the camera, has just been a treat. It's been a joy for me. You know, it really has. So I'm thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm thoroughly enjoying meeting the people, working with the people that I'm working with. It's just fantastic.
Nice.
And I have the time to do, my kids are grown, you know, and gone. They still ask me for money. So so they're not, you know, not quite.
That will never stop.
That will never stop. But you know, I have the goats, I have the chickens. It's given me an appreciation for how hard farmers work. Oh my word! Getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go break the ice in the buckets. It's all good. So you know, so I'm just enjoying it, and this is where I choose to live. I don't have anything that makes me live here. I choose to live here. So that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you. So I just want to take a second to tell the folks out there about the voting information. We want to make sure, as Dannielle said, get out there and vote. It's important. In a small area like this, 1 or 2 votes can mean the difference between electing your candidate or not having them elected. So get out there and exercise that right that we've been given. It's
And
important.
phone your friends, and
Yeah.
phone your family,
Phone
and get
your
them
friends,
to
phone
vote.
your family, get people out. That's really important. So as Dannielle said, there are 2 ways to vote. You can vote in the advanced voting, which is Wednesday, October the 10th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and that is being held actually next door here at 101 Gore Street at the Valemount Community Hall. So that's the first opportunity. And if you can't make that, you also have the general voting day, which is Saturday, October the 20th, again from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and again at the Valemount Community Hall at 101 Gore Street. Dannielle, thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you.
It was wonderful having you here.
And information on residency and more voting information on, you know, requirements too are on the regional
on the
district
Regional
website.
District website. Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you
Okay.
very much. And
Thank you.
thank you all for watching.
Michael.
Best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you.